At Life with Ken, we talk a lot about success. And one of the key aspects of success is that's actually a really good point. I just thought of something that I'm going to highlight. Um, the idea or the concept of achieving or accomplishing something. That's one of the key attributes of success. You're successful because you were able to do something. One of the things that I talk about in relation to success is consistency. Whatever you're consistent at, you're successful at. And the reason why consistency breeds success is because you are able to accomplish something and not only accomplish it once, but accomplish it more than once. So you've developed effectively a success pattern. Shameless plug here. I talk about a lot of this in my course, the success course. But specifically for this video and for this tenet as it relates to one of Life with Ken's core fundamental values, one of the key aspects of success in relation to, again, accomplishing things is also accomplishing things that you're afraid of or conquering difficult challenges or tasks in your life. That can oftentimes generate or yield a more satisfying or satiating amount of success because it's something that you had to struggle for. It's something that you had to like toil with. You know, anything worth having is worth struggling and fighting for. And when you can achieve success in that manner and to that degree of persevering to achieve it, it just becomes even more fulfilling and it resonates in you in a different way. Um, One of the challenges in that space, though, however, is identifying or acknowledging or knowing what some of the challenges are in your life that you need to accomplish and or conquer. Um, for me, what this looks like, I guess specifically, I'm gonna get personal here. I wasn't necessarily planning on, getting personal in this, but I think it's good for the purpose of what the context of this series is. Um, when it comes to becoming successful or knowing what you are afraid of or what you need to conquer, typically a good rule of thumb is whatever you're afraid of is the thing that you want to be able to um, rise above or to succeed over. Life is scary. Frankly, life is scary. There could be a bunch of different things going on in life. Just existing is scary. As soon as you wake up and get out of bed in the morning, God bless, that's a blessing. But then automatically you're taking on risk. You're taking on fear. If you're eating, you're running the risk of choking. If you're traveling, you're running the risk of getting into an accident and dying. If you are, having to present in this capacity or for the example of in this capacity but in general as it relates to your relative life, you might suffer a lowercase d or social death of some capacity if you mess up or make a mistake. So escape of there's no escape of things that might make you afraid, and ultimately, that's because there's no escape of death. Whether it be capital D or lowercase d death, everybody dies in some capacity. A lot of times, and I've talked about this in other videos and in some of my other articles as it relates to the coalescing of people coming together and forming a group, and that group turning into a civilization, so forth and the like. Sometimes, or a lot of times, what happens in that dynamic is a bunch of people are coming together because they don't want a capital D or lowercase d die. And then, as it relates to your self actualization, sometimes you may end up actualizing a person with maladaptive behaviors or traits again because you don't want a lowercase d or capital case D die within the context of a society or within your lived experience. So, everyone has the opportunity to be afraid of something. Personally, one of the issues that I've had, specifically as it relates to my career endeavors and, achieving a certain level of success that I want to see in my life, is I have been historically not good or afraid of, in some capacity, developing or growing my own coalition, support group, so forth and the like. Another key value that I talk about as part of Life with Ken is the importance of support because I can relate to needing support and not having support, or not knowing how to get support, or having support but just not having the right kind of support I need. And it's very nuanced, and there can be a whole lot of things that may or may not be generated or cause you to feel some type of way within that realm of conversation. But for me, I know, especially during relative formative years of my personality development as an adult, I found that I needed support in certain aspects and areas of my life that I just didn't have access to. Not that I didn't have access to support or I wasn't supported. Support where it mattered to me in those specific areas was wanting. And so, from that perspective, I've struggled with being, in essence, for for lack of a better word, I guess I've struggled with, in essence, being the front man of my own life, if that makes sense. Like being in front of a camera, running my own website, developing and growing things to become a business, so forth and the like. Like that has been a challenge for me and has scared me in some capacities. But again, the thing that often makes you fearful or scares you is the thing that you need to typically overcome and accomplish to get to your goal or your desire. A good or common example that you might be familiar with is David and Goliath. Like before David was able to become king, he had to kill Goliath. Goliath was a giant. He was like, I don't know all the exact dimensions of the man, but he was like 3 or 4 times the size of David. And in the event of the story, all David had was a rock. Like Goliath had armor, he had a shield, he had this big old sword, and all Goliath had was a rock. I mean, and all David has was a rock. So sometimes your odds can make you, want to slink back, or feel afraid in some capacity. And since I'm highlighting or mentioning, the Bible here, the Bible also says that God didn't give you the spirit of fear, but of love. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna mess this up. But of love. Uh, oh, I am not the best scripture quoter. I do apologize for that, but I know one of the things is a sound mind as well. I actually like the fact that this is a little bit more casual. I don't know if you could tell. I do not have a script on this video. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I've been kind of navigating that. Another one of my fears that I've been trying to overcome and accomplish is just being more willing to go scripted. So I have an idea of what I want to talk about, but I'm not scripted on this. I have been scripted on some of my other videos. One of the videos that I was scripted for was the video I did on economics. And if you watch that video, it's a wonderful video. But for me, I just felt like I had a hard time being scripted. Going back to, this was like way back now. Oh my gosh. Um, in middle school, I joined the television team. So at my school, we had this television club. I was really active in school. I like being in clubs, and I just thought at that time it would help as it relates to career success and career growth. If I'm very active, I can get into a good school. It's nice to put on your resume, so forth and the like. So that was the mindset that I was of at that particular time. To a certain degree, that's still in me, but it has shifted. Nonetheless, I was on the television club in my middle school, and while I was on that club, I remember I must have only been on the club for about maybe 2 weeks, and they wanted me to be, one of the days that I was on the club. They wanted me to be the the anchor, the newscaster. In hindsight, I don't know. I'm glad I didn't do it. I ended up not doing it. But it's so funny because even though I ended up not being the anchor on the news channel at my school for the day, at least it probably would have perpetuated into other things. I was relatively a movie star because I starred as the Lorax in middle school for Earth Day. I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. It was really cool. They had made a mustache for me. It was this whole thing at the time, and It generated some cool buzz. But I say all that to say that in the moment when I was offered an opportunity to be the front man in that capacity of anchoring the news, I shied away from it because I didn't want to read off script. I'm actually a really good reader. I was reading really well as a kid, especially in like, going through all of, my, I guess, yeah, from first grade through college, I always read at an advanced level. But sometimes what I read and what I say don't always translate directly all the way. So I'm working on that. I'm a work in progress in that regard. So I have shied away from scripts in the past. Now I'm going back to them because I think that they're valuable as it relates to me growing and becoming more successful in that area of my life and opening up different doors and different opportunities. Also, it's very nice to be on track more and just have your points articulated. But then also, I found, as I've done a lot of public speaking engagements before in the past as well, sometimes it doesn't lend to you or to your audience for you to just read off a script and not be able to be more dynamic in some capacity. And then also the other good thing about not necessarily reading off script all the time is that you demonstrate your information, your knowledge, and your familiarity with the subject matter. Like, I don't necessarily need a script for something that I'm familiar with and that I know about and that I'm knowledgeable on. So there's a bunch of different dynamics there. I guess not. I guess I know the point of what I'm trying to say is. As it relates to you becoming more successful, as it relates to you accomplishing and seeing success in your life, you have to um, conquer certain things. And those things that you have to conquer are usually the things that you are afraid of. Um, Going back to the original point that I was trying to make, um, I've always wanted to be, not always wanted to be, but I guess to a certain degree, have always felt a little bit more comfortable behind the scenes. But at the same time, I also want to progress as a person. And then I've always, at the same time, been offered opportunities to a certain degree that have allowed me to, be more front facing and to be, the person like with this series, for example. Uh, what makes what we do matter? This series that we're doing, like the promo video for this was very uncomfortable to a certain degree for me to edit, at least because I'm like, okay, there's a lot of me. That's how I felt. I'm like, I'm prominent, which makes sense. I mean, even the concept of life with Ken is, I'm prominent and it makes sense. But it's just like that's something not necessarily that I fear, but I'm uncomfortable with, and I have to conquer if I want to see a certain level of success in my life. Um, when I was in sales, not that I'm not still in sales technically, but I say that with a little bit of chagrin because I have my own perceptions, and maybe I'll do a whole separate topic on that, but I don't think it matters. Nonetheless, when I was doing sales in a more systematic approach as it relates to prospecting, um, taking people through CRMs, you know, advancing stages, closing deals, so forth and the like, when I was in that type of process and mode, I remember one of my first jobs was as an insurance agent, and at the end of my tenure, as things were winding down and I was realizing that this isn't for me, um, I had to, one of the ways in which I could have overcome those challenges would have been by um, being more front facing as it relates to walking up and talking to people on the street, approaching strangers, asking them if they have life insurance and are they protected and do they want to buy some from this stranger that they just met. And I just really had a hard time with the mental gymnastics that were associated with me, potentially, not even realistically, but potentially finding success. But that also revealed in my life that I have a void as it relates to having people who fundamentally support me, and I don't want to get into certain qualms about people who see my content and don't like anything or only like but don't reshare. I could go places that aren't valuable for me to go to right now. But like that's been an issue for me, finding people who really are aligned with me and support me and find what I do valuable, um, to the degree at which they're willing to demonstrate that support. Another thing that I often talk about as well is, people who are supportive or aren't supportive and what that looks like, so forth and the like. Haters I talk about is, like a lot of life with kin, like the content that I share on the website and through the various other mediums and forums that the Lord allows me to do, it's me. Like, I'm just, this is the real thing. This is the real deal. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to edit down this video. I will cut it. This is just reality. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel, especially as I'm doing this series, I feel more comfortable in my reality, which is a blessing. And I'm trying to grow in that capacity. And I guess that comfort in being more vulnerable is a demonstration or a reflection or the fruits of that growth in my life. So, if anything, it's a good thing. But for me, ultimately, my success journey and overcoming my fears is okay, developing support groups. Okay, if you want people to be on your side, you got to be on your own side. You need to develop and create the space where people can come and coalesce around you. You'll connect with the right people once the right people have something to connect with. And so these are all the things that I am, processing and going through in real time to create success in my life. And then the other thing is acknowledging and realizing that some of what I'm doing has never been done before, or it definitely hasn't been done the way that I'm doing it because I'm the only me that exists. And so just, connecting with that reality too, that this is novel in some respects as well. Um, but ultimately, that's the not even the trajectory. That's the path less traveled as it relates to your success. Like, that's how you accomplish things. That's how you overcome things. Find the challenge, find the obstacle, and do what you have to do to get over it. And not get over it. Um, as some people might say, somatically. Um, you know, just get over it. Like, not like that, but get over it in terms of, I used to. Another thing that I used to do in high school. This is in high school now, not middle school, but in my senior year, in my varsity year of track, I was feeling myself a little bit. I guess not feeling myself, but just in a place where I wanted to explore and do different things on the field. And so I did intermediate hurdles, which I laugh like, no, I wasn't that bad of an intermediate hurdler, but I laugh and futz about it because, first of all, my event was the 400, which was like wild to even, for me to even say that my event was the 400 is kind of crazy. I did the 400 and 200. Sometimes I dabbled in the 100. So I was like this, like, in between, like, sprinter distance runner. I have a lot of um, endurance, and obviously I think that translates well, literally on the field or any sport, but then also in your personal life, just being able to, endure and run the race. Endurance is definitely something that's a translatable attribute of mine. Um, and so, yeah, I did hurdles, and so when I talk about getting over things, for me, to a certain degree, is relatively literal because I used to run track, and so I know what it's like, high knees and just, like, follow through and the whole thing. Like, I don't have the um, camera dimensions to demonstrate to you, proper running form. But the point, and I'm done here, is that as you're going through life, as you're trying to locate where you can find success, locate your challenges, identify, find what are the things that are presenting themselves as obstacles in your life, and how can you conquer those things? How can you beat those things? And how can you get the reward and the achievement on the other side of you demonstrating your best capacity and best ability, of you showing that you have endurance, grit, longevity, um, technique, skill, capacity, all the things to materialize something meaningful in your life. A lot of times you may want to slink back from your fears or walk away from your fears, or are frankly just afraid of dying, whether it be literally in terms of taking your last, drawing your last breath, or socially, your lowercase d, dying from the perspective of maybe struggling to find a new job, or being ridiculed by friends and colleagues, family members, or what have you. All of that stuff doesn't matter because everybody dies eventually. Um, do you want to look back over your life or look back over moments on your life and think to yourself, dang, I should have taken that opportunity, I should have taken that shot, I should have rise to the occasion of that challenge? Or do you want to look back over your life and say, I'm glad I did because I learned something from it and I got something from it and I'm a better person for it? And then finally, the other thing or the other point to note about that as well is you may try to avoid a challenge, but just because you avoid it doesn't mean the challenge is going away. You know, like a lot of what I talked about earlier are still presents themselves as challenges in my life today, and those are things that I am actively working towards getting the upper hand on, if you will. So that is essentially the value of becoming successful or overcoming your fears to reach success, because to reach your success to a certain degree you do have to overcome fears. And what we do here at Life with Ken, in this video and in this case, try to show a little bit more vulnerability about what that process looks like, but also encourage and inspire you to materialize that reality for yourself. Thank you for watching. The next video will be a little bit more uh, formatted, but I hope you found value on this, and see you in the next one.